And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Flatout Racing Network's coverage of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series. Season 63. This is race number 10, playoff race number 2, elimination race number 1. That's right, at the conclusion of tonight's 66 lapper at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway, we will cut our playoff field from 14 initial starters to the Elite 8. One driver we already know is locked in. Coach Kelly Causey took the checkered flag 2 weeks ago to secure himself a spot into the next round. 7 spots still remain. Most drivers can either point their way in or fall out points-wise. One driver's in a must-win situation, and it all takes place here in some good old super speedway racing. I'm Seth Cole, alongside of Michael Norman. And Michael, it's crunch
Seth
time
Cole
here.
is not the true pole sitter.
Yes, I do have a gripe with the server. The random qualifying draw initially had me on the pole position, and then the server went down. They had to reset it.
Don't
So
believe him.
I am the true pole sitter tonight, regardless of what I read off of the starting grid. But anyway, let's get serious here for a moment, and then you can heckle me about my loss of pole. But I mean, it's go time here for the playoff contenders. And as I said, even if you're above the cut line, we've got, it looks like a total of 35 drivers that are taking the green flag tonight. A lot of points on the table. And
36, because I'm on there too.
Well, 35 and a half. And, and, there's no room for error even if you're above the cut line. I mean, Jeremy Jeffries is currently the points leader, and he's only 19 points to the good. That's a little more than half of what this field is. So we saw the last time out, I'm going to be saying last week, but of course we had Halloween off last week, so it's been 2 weeks since these drivers have been on track. But the last race that these drivers ran, we saw it for the most part relatively clean and green, especially towards the last portion. It came down to green flag pit stops. With this being an elimination race, do we see more of that? Is that what the playoff drivers should initially prepare for, or do you go into survival mode, do you think, in the initial start?
Well, you need to prepare for everything. And you and me both know that for when it comes to super speedway racing in general. And you got to be prepared for everything. You want to be up at the front. You know that any little thing, any little wrong move can set off a big one that can take out half of the field. Or, as we saw a couple of weeks ago, 3/4 of the field. And that was just coming to the checkered flag.
Yeah.
But, you've got to be prepared for everything. Every little thing that happens could be very easily a spot that you can pick up and points that you can get.
And we have seen so many times when it comes down to these elimination races, to your point, single points being the difference maker into whether you are above that cut line or below the cut line. We know at least 6 drivers are going to point their way into the round of 8. We could have as many as 2 drivers win their way in. Kelly Causey already one of them. Denny Carroll going to line up on the pole position here for this one. He'll be alongside of Doug Woolley, Joe DeSpirito, and Mark Paglia. They're going to make up row number 2. Jeremy Jeffries, Rodney Sullins in row 3, Mike Mangialardi, Billy Elliser in row 4, and then your top 10 completed by Keith Bynum. And here you go, Michael. First time tonight, Randy Waugh.
Luigi.
Bernie Mobbs, Greg Lovell, they're back in row 6. Row 7, Josh Metallic and Chuck McClure. Row 8 will find Tim Nofsker and Bob Seminara. Row 9, Terry Bombard, Doug Gulick. And completing your top 20 will be Ken Roberts and Ulysses Sandoval. Back in row 11, Richard Martin, Robert Breedlove. Row 12 is Greg Palmer and John Godfrey. Row 13 finds Cy Jones and Donnie Garrett. Brian Lovell and Jeffrey Elliott back in row 14. In your top 30, Jeff Crivello and Glenn Harris. Final 5 drivers making up the 35-car field will be Bobby Farrell, Jessica Schulten, Harvey Negron, Tom Dixon, and Bob Dixon. As you take a look here on your screen, these are the 14 drivers that are in the playoffs here this season, season 63. You see Kelly Causey's name in green. He's already locked in. 7 drivers looking to get above that 8th in the standings cut line at the conclusion of the evening. Ken Roberts in the 55, who missed the first playoff race. He is really the only driver right now mathematically in a must-win situation to advance into the next round of the playoffs. But we're getting ready to find out who's going to join the legend coach Kelly Causey in the round of 8 as green flag waves here at BSR.
I do want to apologize ahead of time as I am under the weather, so you may not hear a lot from me tonight, but I am here as much as I can be.
He promised he at least is going to chime in every time that there's a Waluigi opportunity.
Exactly.
Couple of drivers we were notified before the drop of the green flag tonight that are not going to be able to participate. One driver that already, with his win 2 weeks ago, is locked into the round of 8. Very fortunate for him, that being Kelly Causey. He's coaching a football game tonight, and prior family engagement for Brian Rawson. We won't see his number 6 in the field here this evening. Multi-time winner back in season 62 and was in the Final Four for the championship last season. As Denny Carroll's going to lead the first lap in that middle groove ahead of Doug Woolley. Here comes Joe DeSpirito on the bottom, though, with help from Jeremy Jeffries. Jeffries leading the point standings. DeSpirito 5th in the standings, 13 points to the good above the cut line. And shout out to everybody that's been in our chat here, even before we came on the air. Had Jeffrey Elliott in our chat there, Grant Wesley as well, Ulysses Sandoval, Denny Carroll, and we got Milt Surratt. Milt, the pressure's on you. You've been 2 for 2. Who you got, Surratt? Who's winning tonight? Who's advancing into that round of 8, or are you going with a non-playoff driver potentially here? Because we found somebody that's able to reverse the curse and being able to call people.
Death. I wouldn't do that. I like how you're gonna put the commentator's curse on him.
I can't put the commentator's curse on him, Michael. He's been right twice. He called Kelly Causey winning 2 weeks ago, and he called when Ken Roberts took the checkered flag this year. So he's 2 for 2 in actually calling correctly the race winners. He's reversed the curse.
That doesn't mean it'll happen all the time.
You're a pessimist.
I'm a
man.
Call me?
I called you a pessimist.
Your face.
Brilliant comeback. Top 6 or 7 have got themselves single filed out.
Your face is a 7.
Tim Nuff's out of what?
Out of 1,000.
Man, that's too generous of you. Double wide around the 9th position now. That's Rodney Sullins and Mark Paglia. Paglia, of course,
walk around the park with that face.
That's why the squirrels run back up the trees when you walk by. But
Yeah,
Mark Paglia, the only
you.
2-time winner on the season, now running behind Rodney Sullins.
That's why Chip and Dale wouldn't come out and talk to us.
That's what. Oh man, I don't even remember seeing Chip and Dale actually.
Yeah, because they were too afraid of your face.
No, but no, if I remember correctly, Chip and Dale normally are always over at
They're actually at Hollywood
Spring
Studios.
or Hollywood Studios. Yeah.
Yeah. When me and my cousins went, we saw them over there. But I still no. What ride did we see them? We had to have saw them on a ride. Trying to remember what it was though.
But I'm pretty sure they're usually over at Hollywood Studio. I don't know if they ever make their way over to Magic Kingdom.
Didn't we see them like we were on like It's a Small World or something at the Christmas where we were on like a water ride and we saw them?
I think you're thinking
of.
You're thinking of when we saw Stitch.
Living on the Land, Living with the Land, or whatever that ride we were on. Remember we saw them in like the little cafe area or whatever, that restaurant.
Did we?
Yeah, it was Living with the Land or something. The ride that we swore we would never go on, but we went on anyway.
When we were at the land, they were there. Okay. Oh wait, no, you're right. You're right. No, you are right. Okay, I'd forgotten about that. This is why I have no memory.
By the way, Milt picked Ken Roberts.
Oh, he picked Ken. He's picking Ken for a second time, a guy who is in a must-win situation. We'll see if Ken Roberts can rise to the occasion here as we're following this middle line, which is right now the outside line. Josh Metallic, with help from Tim Nofsker, Rodney Sullins, Mark Paglia. This is an interesting scenario because you got Metallic and Paglia, who are 3rd and 4th in points. Tim Nofsker, he is below the cut line, 11th in the standings, 12 points below the cut line. So this could be a conglomerate effort of trying to make sure that Tim Nofsker advances into the round of 8, trying to get him up to the front. As looks like Metallic is going to edge out ahead of Joe DeSpirito. Oh, we got a wreck in the back, 3 cars around. But I don't think the caution's going to come out.
I don't see. They saved it. I think they saved it. There's no one spinning. Except
yep,
for the
there
22.
is one. That's Greg Palmer.
He spun on the track, but there's nobody around him.
No one around him. We stay green.
Nobody around him, and we stay under green. Oh my gosh, look at the slicing and dicing.
Now, I'm not certain. There were a couple of other cars that I saw that spun down to the inside. but did not, as Michael pointed out, go around. Not sure exactly who they were, but you have to wonder if Greg Palmer was not the cause of the incident. I was going to say, we got someone coming to pit road here. Is that the 931 Robert Breedlove? Yes, it
might
is.
have been.
Yep, so I'm wondering if he might have been the one that caused the wreck. Of course, if you end up causing a wreck here and it doesn't bring out a yellow, you have to serve a pass-through penalty to avoid being given a post-race EOL. So with the 931 diving to pit lane just literally a lap after that incident through the tri-oval, one would assume Robert Breedlove's taking responsibility for that. But now you got a bunch of drivers there that were towards the back half of this lead pack as we are 4 wide and almost wrecking here in the middle.
These guys really aren't playing around.
No, they aren't. That was Keith Bynum, Bernie Mobbs, Randy Waugh was in that situation. Ooh, trying to get up in front of Glenn Harris. Now I think if he wanted to, he can tuck in. No, he's going to try. Oh, wow, trying to force his way into all sorts of lanes that time. Right in front of Bob Seminara, forcing his way to the inside. That's a couple of close shaves right there. And of course, as well, we have to highlight Ken Roberts and the fact that not only is Milt Surratt picking him here tonight, but we can now, when Grant Wesley gets back in the track, I'll be able to actually tell who is who because thanks to Rodney Sullins, Ken Roberts is featuring yellow numbers on his Mountain Dew throwback scheme. Back up to the front.
Yellow.
Yellow, but not on the racetrack though.
It's like the Little Caesars slogan. Instead of pizza, it's yellow. I'm just gonna stay quiet now. My sick brain.
I'm being told in our YouTube chat the feed is gone.
I am watching.
It's still going on my end.
I see it too on my end.
Okay.
That might just be you, because I see it perfectly fine on mine.
Yeah, it is still running on my end as well. And I've not yet seen any dropped frames, at least on the recording software side. This has been a good back and forth up here at the front. Inside line's gotten momentum, middle line has gotten momentum. Despirito and Metallic keep taking turns leading laps. Despirito has led 6, Metallic just led his 3rd. They are 2 of 3 drivers that have led laps so far. Denny Carroll, the pole sitter, leading the first lap. And it looks like Greg Palmer, who we saw had that spin through the tri-oval, he's actually come to pit road, made a pit stop. He and Robert Breedlove currently both 1 lap down, but they're the only 2, so if a caution were to come out, they would both be the recipients of the free pass.
Middle lane here again, getting a good advantage. That's kind of the thing here at Burnt Screwdrivers.
And I know that I'm probably, risking the commentator curse.
Don't say it.
But I am going to point out that
don't say it.
We've had a lot of races, especially towards the latter portion of the regular season, where we've ended up having green flag pit stops at that point, kind of the money stops. But it's been a while since we've seen the drivers be able to make it to the first round of green flag pit stops from the initial drop of the green flag. So we'll see if they are able to make it here this time. How about a couple of drivers that started out back? Jessica Shelton in the 9. She started this race from 32nd, and in the span of 12 laps, she's now up here into the top 5.
But is she still in the playoffs?
Oh, yeah. She's still in the playoffs. She's currently the... Oh, wreck in the back! That's Richard Martin, Ken Roberts. There were a few others involved there as well, as that was right through the exit of turn number 4, and caution's going to fly for the first time tonight. And yes, Michael, you can put the commentator curse count on me. I talked about green flag pit stops.
Terry Bombard just drove down into pit road and wrecked.
There's Billy Elliser there as well in the 26. There's Ken Roberts in a must-win situation. Terry Bombard in the 10. And there is the first car I saw out of shape. The back end crunched up on the STP Pontiac, the former champion Richard Martin. Caution is out for the first time here tonight. And we'll go
You know,
back
it's
and
very
take a
funny.
look at what happened.
Jess actually had just whispered and was saying, "Am I still in the playoffs? I have no idea." And right as I was about to answer, that wreck happened, so I kind of just screamed in her ear a little bit.
Here's a look at what happened here. 3 wide, and Ken Roberts. It's kind of hard to tell there from that vantage point. He was definitely there in the middle, and he wasn't really getting a whole lot of room from Doug Willie on his inside or Richard Martin on the outside.
On the outside, round the outside. Any of the playoff guys involved in that one?
Ken Roberts.
Ken Roberts.
Yeah, that's a big one because he was the driver coming into this one that mathematically could not point his way in. He had to rely on a victory. This is the helicopter cam, and yeah,
Who's flying that helicopter?
that's a good question.
Who does FRN have to fly the helicopter? I mean, we never did establish that.
I mean, Matt Rod pays the bills, so he'd be the only one that would know that information of who he's paying to fly the helicopter.
I want Matt Rod to join us one night for a broadcast here. I want to see just how goofy we can all get.
Sounds like a challenge, and you know Matt Rod would rise to it.
He absolutely would.
There's Billy Elliser in the 26. I want to find the 10 of Terry Bombard and see. Oh, wow, okay, that's what happened with the 10. So the 26 of Billy Elliser was still sitting there in the middle of the racetrack after he got involved in that wreck. And Terry Bombard comes flying in and clobbers him. Here's a look at it.
That's what I'm saying, like...
Actually, Terry got turned in the left rear quarter panel by Robert Breedlove, and that directed him down into the 26 car. I think he would have had Elliser missed had Breedlove not made that contact. But as soon as that impact took place, you saw smoke pouring from underneath the Quaker State machine of Billy Elliser, so that is more than likely his day done, and I actually can confirm he has taken his car back behind the wall.
Yep.
So he's going to get credit for 35th place. Bob Seminara staying out here to get a lap led. Seminara was only 1 point out of the points lead. He was 18 points ahead of the cut line, but as I said...
Well, hold on, wait. 1 point out of the points lead. Well, he just led a lap, right? That's bonus points now.
That is bonus points. Though theoretically, it really doesn't matter if you're the points leader after this round. You just are trying to be up above the
I
eighth
know.
position.
I'm just saying, not technically now he's the points leader, right?
He'd be... Well, yes and no. You get the 1 point for the lap led to counter the point you're behind Jeremy Jeffries, but bear in mind, Jeremy just pitted and Bob's giving up track to pit now, so I think Bob would still be behind Jeremy in live points for the points lead on the restart. But you brought up the question there, Michael, about the point situation for Shelton. She is 2 points below the cut line coming into this one.
Who would you consider safe right now?
Nobody.
Above the cut line?
Nobody. I don't think anybody's safe. The only person that's above the cut line that's safe is Kelly Causey with the win. If you look at Jeremy Jeffries, he came in tonight the points leader, 19 points above the cut line, 21 points ahead of the first driver below the cut line. With 35 drivers taking the green tonight, and with what we've seen in the past in playoffs, it just takes one wreck that has you off the pace or out of the race, and that could be your playoffs done. I don't think anybody is safe. You'd have to come into this race, in my opinion, with 30 points or more above the cut line to be considered safe.
By the way, Jess says, why don't you come down here and see who's actually safe or not?
I mean, I don't have to. I'm calling nobody safe. So with that caution, that was a big break for Robert Breedlove and Greg Palmer, because I believe those two are going to be getting the lucky dog. So our 34 remaining drivers should all be on the lead lap when we go back green. Tim Nofsker. Now, if we talk about drivers playing the strategy of getting bonus points for laps led, those below the cut line, that's huge for them, and Nofsker is one of them. 12 points below 8th in the standings, and right there, that last lap was his first lap led of the night, and it looks like he will actually restart as our leader. Lights should go out atop the pace car this next time by. Reminder to everybody that we are going to be here every Thursday night for the continuation and completion of the 63rd season, but we will have one more off week for these drivers. We had the off week last week for Halloween. We will be having an off week on the Thursday. That is Thanksgiving, so bear that in mind. We'll keep you guys aware of that as we draw closer to that date. And also, Saturday night, November the 9th, we've got another Talladega Nights mega team event for y'all. And I understand it's going to be the last one run under the Talladega Nights moniker, as future events are going to be under the moniker of Full Throttle Racing. So looking forward to that.
Also, Jess says in my ear that she will be available that night for you.
There you go. So you'll have myself and Jess bringing you coverage of that one. Last couple of them have been really, really good.
Well, you know what? I don't have to work. Maybe I should join you. That way I can use that race to help pay for my trip in May.
I don't know if there's going to be enough space for 3 commentators.
I could be I'll be up there and I'll just be there for a spirit.
You should you should go race in it.
Oh, there's a big wreck. I wish I could see it.
You should be on Team Wrecking Ball.
Oh God!
You and Ulysses Sandoval as teammates. After what I saw you guys doing in practice, you'd be perfect.
Freaking! Can you imagine that one? Just in race reporter.
It's been done before. We had Matt Rod as in race reporter for the Upper Edge Racing Super Speedway Series.
No, in race reporter. It's Michael. How's it going down there? Well, I'm flying through the air right now. This ain't good.
It's going great. We're at an altitude of 12,000 feet. Well, as you can hear, or in this case, not hear, the engine of Tim Nofsker. Already a number of these guys are up at the front, throwing in the clutch, saving fuel. We're going to be getting this restart with 50 laps to go. They would not be able to make it on one more stop here. They will have to pit again somewhere around the lap 38 to lap 40 mark, which would not have them able to make it the rest of the way. They'd still be about 5 laps short of the finish. As Tim Nofsker is going to be getting us back underway. Rodney Sullins to his outside. Josh Metallic, Mark Paglia, Jessica Shelton, the top 5. Then it's DeSpirito, Jeffries, Greg Lovell, pole sitter Denny Carroll, and Jeffrey Elliott. That's your top 10 as we get ready to go back green.
I'm looking at the chat, and you have Grant Wesley. Milt, our guy wrecked. Milt's right. Bad call. New driver, Jeremy Jeffries for the win.
We're not calling that the commentator's curse on you, Milt.
And then Milt says, I'll wait till about 15 to go.
You know, my luck is I would call somebody on the white flag lap and they would still wreck.
Jeremy Jeffries gonna win. Oh no, he blew up.
And he's gonna win this race next corner. Did I say he was gonna win this race? Well, we'll have to see about some of those drivers caught up in that wreck. Like Ken Roberts and Richard Martin, will they be able to stay up here in this lead pack?
Martin of the Richard?
Yes.
I'm so glad I had you stumped on that one.
It just didn't make sense. I was trying to make sense of it and couldn't. It's like the dark long of the shoe.
The dark long of a shoe.
Rodney Sullins in that middle groove actually gets the momentum. He's going to go out in front. It's been a tough season for Rodney. Failed to make the playoffs. He's 23rd in overall point standings coming into tonight and has not found victory lane. So the pressure of the playoffs at least not something he has to think about. So he can go out there, be aggressive, and try and get that checkered flag.
Hey Seth, I have a random question for you.
You always do.
How much could a woodchuck, if a woodchuck put Harry Potter's name in the Goblet of Fire?
The question is that woodchuck actually over, what was it, 16, 17? Whoa! Contact back there between Shelton and Bynum. And a side-by-side for 7th.
Wait, you just ignore my question.
No, I was trying to come up with an answer because I'm trying to remember what Barty Crouch Sr., what he said the age was that you had to be in order to participate in the...
17.
Was it 17? Okay, I thought it was 17 or 18. So
and you call yourself a Harry Potter fan.
So is the woodchuck 17 years old?
It is.
Okay. Well, then I don't know what Chuck would do.
I'm just waiting for Chuck McClure to come into the top 10.
Where is he? There he is. I see him up on the outside line. Crossed the line last time by in 18th. And as a matter of fact, Chuck McClure comes into this race, I think, in maybe one of the most precarious positions in the standings because he is that cut line driver. He is 8th in the standings. So he has to be aware of drivers that he is just behind that he could try and leapfrog to get away from that cut line. Plus, he has to be aware of the drivers that are just below him, like Shelton, Terry Bombard, Tim Nofsker, and how close he has to be to those drivers to keep them from advancing past him in the standings. Chuck McClure is the defending champion of the series, and he wants to advance into that round of 8 to defend his title, but he's in a bit of a precarious spot right now.
Now, how frustrating does it have to be one of those drivers on the inside lane where you're like, wow, we should really be able to get the advantage here, but we're just kind of stagnant and stuck.
So it's a catch-22, right? So you want to be in that middle line, obviously, because as we've seen in the past and we've been seeing here, it gets the better momentum on the straightaways off of 2 and off of 4. But you also want to be on that inside line for 2 reasons. Number 1, if a wreck occurs, you have a better chance of avoiding it if you're on that inside line. Most of the time, the wrecks are going to migrate up the track. If you're in that middle lane, you may not have a lane to be able to avoid. Another reason why you want to be on the inside line, yes, you're maybe losing momentum and losing positions. Oh, we got a wreck. Jeremy Jeffries is up and over. I thought they were going to save it. They didn't. Oh, man. This is going to be a horrible wreck in the corner. We've got Ken Roberts up and over. Bobby Farrell has caught air as well.
Jeff Pravello was up and over.
Caution flies for the second time tonight. And this is what I was just alluding to. More often than not, the wreck's going to go up the track, and especially when it's going into a corner like that one did into turn 3.
Hey, I got a question. Who did you say was the first one to flip? Jeremy Jeffries. Right? So, Grant, you jinxed it again.
They called Jeremy, didn't they? Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Grant, is tonight the night that chat actually has the hex?
Oh, the 99 kind of turned Randy Waluigi into the 1.
Yeah, there was a lot of movement back there. And I thought that maybe, just maybe, that they had organized it and it actually saved it. But as we saw, obviously, that was not the case. And as I said, Michael, Jeremy Jeffries, 19 points above the cut line, came in the points leader, but nobody is safe.
Milsrot just said, Grant, your guy just wrecked.
Let's go back, take a look at what happened. Jeremy Jeffries' car does not look that badly damaged. I know it sounds. I know it doesn't sound like a sentence that would make sense, but there are what's considered harmless flips here in NR, and this may have been a case of that. Jeremy with maybe a bit of an uneven bump from Ulysses Sandoval, and then, as you alluded to, Doug Woolley gets into Randy Waugh.
Luigi.
Setting him down into Jeremy Jeffries. These Aero 88 cars are so deceptive with the damage model, it's hard to tell just how much damage is sustained. Let's take a focus on the 55 of Ken Roberts and that petty blue 92 of Bobby Farrell, because they took some wild rides as well. Wreck is already in progress, and then back up the track they come. And right there, as the 92 kind of squeezes the 55 into the wall, the two of them flip up into the air. There's Bob Seminara through the grass, able to avoid. Javier Negron there, the green machine. The sun drop number 40, looks like he might have gotten through. Mike Mangialardi was back behind this in the 029. I believe he was involved. See if we can get another camera angle here. Yeah, Jeremy Jeffries did not take many bad hits. As his car was flipping, Javier Negron kind of settled the car back to the ground, and as he was spinning up to the wall, Mike Mangialardi kind of became the buffer between Jeremy and the outside walls. I think Jeremy might be okay.
It's possible. I mean, I don't really think he fully flipped. I mean, he did kind of do a blowover, but...
take a look at the aerial view here. As I said, a lot of movement there around that 9th, 10th position. Watch the one of Jeremy Jeffries. A lot of chain bumping on that inside line gets him out of shape, and then you saw right there Doug Woolley getting into the 21 of Randy Waugh. Terry Bombard involved, Brian Lovell in it.
You didn't give me a chance.
Nope. Jeff Crivello in the 36 there as well. Oh, and then Tom Dixon almost into the 21, who then has to avoid the 10. So that is what brings out the second caution of the evening. Sets us up for another restart. We're going to, it looks like, be a third of the way through when we get the green flag here. Lap 23 about to be complete, which now shifts the fuel window, and I believe when we go green now, it will be one stop to the finish. They had to cross lap 24 in order to be able to make it on one more stop.
My game crashed.
That's not good.
Did I fall out yet?
I don't know.
Yep.
I assume now you have.
I'm back in. Good thing it happened in the caution.
Yeah, right? So, two other drivers out of the race now joining Billy Elliser from the first caution. Jeff Crivello is going to get credit for 33rd, and Richard Martin will be scored in 34th place. We did not have any drivers that were a lap down during the course of that run, so there will be no free pass, and Joe DeSpirito was the first one on and off pit road, so he'll be the one to get us back under green on the upcoming restart. Well, we're going to step aside for an FRN race break, be back here for the green flag to continue on the second playoff race, first elimination race of the 63rd season of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series here from Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this. We welcome you back here to Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway, getting set for our second restart of the night.
I mean, he welcomes you back. I don't know about the rest of us.
That's kind of rude.
No, it's not.
No? Where'd you learn your manners from?
The back of a cereal box.
Oh.
I also got my license from there, too.
No, that was out of a box of Cracker Jacks. Well, this is the second playoff race of the season. And this is the first elimination race. We started off the playoffs with 14 drivers. At the conclusion of the evening, we will have 8 drivers moving on. 6 drivers will be eliminated. One driver we know is already locked into the next round of the playoffs, being Kelly Causey. We also know one driver is eliminated at this point. And that is Brian Schilling, a former champion. Very consistent during this regular season. Got the season started off right with the first checkered flag on a fuel strategy call at Talladega Superspeedway, but he is not in the field here tonight, and he was below the cut line, so he will not be advancing into the next round of the playoffs. Everybody else just above the cut line or just below the cut line. It's still a big question mark as we've got 41 laps remaining. Joe DeSpirito getting us back underway. Pretty even going into 3. Outside line led by Mark Paglia. As mentioned before, Mark Paglia, the only driver so far this season that has gone to victory lane multiple times. And now looking to be the first 3-time winner on the season. Comes into this race 15 points ahead of the cut line. Not in a must-win situation, but running up front, a lot of drivers feel is the safest place to be, rather than back in the middle of the pack in the Hornet's nest.
Look how Matt, typical Michael. Shut up, Matt. You're not in here.
Middle line prevailing down the back straightaway, but not clear. Spirito battles back with a shorter distance through 3 and 4. Big help there by the 56 of Jeffrey Elliott. We talk about the 13 playoff contenders, well, 12 playoff contenders in the field here tonight. That means there were 23 drivers that took the green flag this evening. They're the proverbial X factors. They're not battling for a championship. They're out here looking for a checkered flag themselves, or could be that drafting partner that one of the playoff drivers need to be able to help advance them into the round of 8.
I may or may not have put Matt in timeout in our chat.
Why would you do that?
60 seconds.
Leave Matt alone. You realize that if I don't end up getting to Indianapolis in time, and you arrive at the airport, Matt's not picking you up now. You're just gonna be stranded at the Indianapolis airport.
I'll Uber.
Where?
Exactly.
We don't have a B&B set up for that trip yet.
I'll just Uber to the track instead.
There you go. The day before.
Just camp out. I'll watch the Freedom 500.
They don't have Carb Day the day before, right? Usually
No,
Carb Day is like 2 days before or something.
No, Carb Day is the week before, the weekend before, I thought.
Oh, is it? Is it Is it literally a whole week between qualifying, Carb Day, and everything in the actual race?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Wow.
I don't know. I don't really know how that works, but I'm almost 100% sure that there's like 2 weeks of there's 2 weeks of qualifying, and I think the last weekend is Carb Day.
Ah. Yeah, for those that are wondering what we're talking about, we're going to be in Indianapolis next May for the Indianapolis 500.
Shoot, if things work out, Seth might be coming down to Daytona for the Daytona 500 as well.
Yeah, we're not sure about that yet.
All his expenses paid.
All my expensive paid.
You know what I meant.
So doing a little checking here of drivers involved in previous wrecks, whether they are up to speed or not, it looks like 3 drivers are off the pace. They are Mike Mangialardi, Bob Dixon, and Randy Waugh.
Luigi.
Also, right
Matt said yes, the Sunday before the event is Carb
Oh, okay.
Day.
He also called you rude, which is true. Now, this has been a little more competitive than we've seen in the past with the inside line, the outside line. We saw before Joe DeSpirito and Josh Metallic were kind of in a deadlock for the lead. Same right here with Mark Pagli and Joe DeSpirito, but the big reason for that is because nobody's really ventured to that third lane. It seems like whenever that third lane starts to form, that's when the momentum is sucked out of the middle line and the inside line gains the advantage.
Sorry. Yeah, I mean, the side by side, they might as well be racing, in a side by side like this. They're just pacing it.
This is pacing, and we have it on fast forward at like 3x. I guarantee you, though, if they make contact, the spins and the wrecks will not be like pacing.
Look at that, Milt Surratt. I've done the trifecta at Indy: 500, Brickyard, and F1, the inaugural race of 2000.
Wow. Nice. I've never actually been to an open wheel race, and I figured if I'm gonna go to one, go to the big one.
Exactly. Well, you're not doing it just for the race. You're also going to the parks.
Well, no, but honestly, before adding the theme parks on, it was just the Indy 500 was the first thing that was part of the trip, and then I saw the other things around.
This guy over here just thinks everybody's rich. He's talking about going to the Indy 500 in the parks, and he's like, "Oh, we should also go back to Bristol in September."
I said okay. So hold on. Two things. One, I said I'm considering it, and two, I didn't say you had to come with me. I said that I'm considering going back to Bristol. I didn't say you had to pay to go.
Yeah, but when you make plans like that, you gotta have everybody go with you.
But then how is that my fault?
We should try to find the same brick house that we had the last time we went to Bristol.
Was that a brick house?
Yeah, it was. It was a brick house. Yeah.
Oh.
Remember?
It was a very nice B&B. However, it was a long drive to the track.
The piano. Not really.
It was an hour. It was like an hour and 45 minutes one way.
Compared to 3 hours the previous year.
Was it really that far from Dandridge?
Yeah.
Wow. I don't remember it being that far.
Well, it might have been a little bit
I'm
further.
going to have to look that up.
Closer to 2 hours.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look that up because I don't remember that drive being that long.
Yeah, because we were closer. We were near Knoxville the second time, I think.
We were in Knoxville the second time. Hopefully try and find somewhere closer. I found out from Nick that apparently you can actually fly into, it's not Three Rivers. What's the place called?
A Tri-State?
Tri-State, yeah.
Yeah, but it's more expensive.
It is. But if you can get the right flight, it might be worth it. I don't know.
Well, we just drive. You can go pick up Anthony on your way.
If he goes. Richmond's a good track too. But the day race was good. The day race was fun to watch. And then the truck race was a nice race.
Until you get sunburnt.
And then you get baked, yeah. Anthony and I were in the
I think he said
places.
I think NASCAR said that next year the races are going to be a night race.
Yeah.
Or I think Richmond did Richmond lose a race, right?
I think they lost a race, yeah.
And so they only go to Richmond one time next year.
Yep. Meanwhile, this deadlock at the front continues.
Anyways, this race.
I mean, there's not much to be able to call at the moment because you're seeing it right here at the front. It is literally deadlocked between Mark Pagli and Joe DeSpirito. DeSpirito has gotten the advantage on most of these occasions back to the start-finish line. Pagli, I think, in this battle has only been able to be out in front for 2, now make it... Well, no, DeSpirito did actually get it at the line. So, yeah, only 2 laps have been led by Mark Paglia, so despite the fact that midline always seems to get the advantage on the straightaways, DeSpirito's been able to use the inside of the tri-oval to get the advantage when they come back to the stripe now we're starting to get racy. That third line was formed there with Jeremy Jeffries, Rodney Sullins, Greg Palmer. Chuck McClure saw the momentum coming. He jumped up there. Doug Woolley tried to fit in line. He wasn't able to time it correctly. And this is not what the middle line wanted to see, because now you see Paglia drifts back. He's now back alongside of Jeffrey Elliott, and Joe DeSpirito is clear of all 3 lanes through the tri-oval.
Nope, Surratt says we crack him up.
And there you see the advantage of that inside line. DeSpirito, Elliott, Lovell, all clear. as they're 3 wide for the 4th position. Pole sitter Denny Carroll now leading that 3rd line, trying to get back up to the front. Started from the inside of the front row, led the first lap, hasn't been to the lead since then.
And this is just what happens when these drivers get 3 wide. Look at this, that top 4 beginning to kind of pull away just that little bit.
And that 3 wide is fanning out through the corner, almost looking 4 wide there. Now a couple of drivers ducking from the middle line down to the inside. That leaves, I think, 3 drivers there in the middle. Paglia, Nofsker, and Doug Hulick. How about some of these drivers that have been able to utilize that inside advantage to move up into the top 5? Greg Lovell in the 880. Greg coming into this one in the 19th position in the point standings. Obviously not a playoff contender. And right behind him, Keith Bynum in the 63. Both of these drivers looking for their first career wins. Josh Metallic right there behind him as we've got a car coming to pit road. That's Jeffrey Elliott in the 56 from the 2nd position. Now this is a little early to be coming to pit lane. These drivers went back green on lap 24's completion onto 25. So they should be able to make it another 6 laps or so, especially those that are back in the pack that have been able to save fuel. So an early call to pit lane there for Jeffrey Elliott. However, consider the fact that, was it last week? Yeah, last week we ended up or not last week, but the last race 2 weeks ago, we ended up having a major accident on the entrance to pit road involving several playoff drivers. And so maybe coming to pit lane early and being there by yourself might not be such a horrible strategy if you kind of look back on the flashbacks of 2 weeks ago. Joe DeSpirito looking to lock up an extra bonus point for leading the most laps tonight. He has been out in front now for 20 circuits. Next closest to him would be Rodney Sullins, who's led 6 laps. Josh Metallic has led 5, 2 laps led for Tim Nofsker and Mark Paglia, and then everybody else has only led 1 lap, and that would be Denny Carroll, Jeremy Jeffries, and Bob Seminara. So about 6 laps away, 5, 6 laps away from when these drivers are going to have to hit pit road. And Jeffrey Elliott's back on pit lane. Looks like he may have sped on his first time down, having to serve a pass-through. Either that or maybe missed his pit stall. Regardless, he's now going to lose a lap to the leaders. And he's going to have to rely on a caution to be able to catch back up. Jessica Shelton now up to the 5th spot. Right behind her, a couple of cars, is Donnie Garrett in the 77.
She kind of pulled. That was a heck of a move there. When she pulled down the inside.
Jeremy Jeffries. Remember I mentioned the term harmless flip? Looks like that car is up to speed. Now cracked back into the top 10. Right behind the defending champ Chuck McClure. Starting to see a number of playoff contenders make their way up here towards the front, as this is theoretically going to be the money stop, folks. When these drivers come to pit lane, they should be able to make it the rest of the way.
Should is the key word.
Yep. It will more than likely be the final pit stop they'll make this evening outside of crash damage repair if we end up having any yellows towards the close of this race. As looks like the 143 of Bob Dixon just up ahead. I believe Dixon has actually just completed a green flag pit stop, so he's in danger of being put a lap down now. Radio's beginning to light up, it looks like. We might have some takers onto pit road here. About 3 laps prior to when they were expected to hit pit road. Let's see who's going to make the dive. Looks like playoff contender Cy Jones on pit lane. Tom Dixon in the Batmobile also making the dive. Cy Jones 13th in points, 20 points below the cut line. He was the driver borderline could point his way in, but he was also borderline in a must-win situation as well, after pointing his way into a playoff berth. I believe we're going to see more drivers with hands out the window this time by. I think the 24 of Joe DeSpirito very likely could be one of them hitting pit road this time from the race lead. Mark Paglia trying to tuck down there in front of Metallic, so I think the 28's coming in this time by. Could be a big pack hitting pit road this lap. Let's see if they all make it on safely. We got a car around back there into the inside wall. As double wide, 3 wide here on pit entry. Robert Breedlove might have been the car that I saw spinning down towards the inside wall. I don't know if he hit it or not. But nobody back there at the entrance of pit road out of shape, so whoever it was, they were able to get it straightened back out. Looks like about 8, 9 drivers electing to stay out an extra lap here. Jeremy Jeffries going to be the first of those, along with Rodney Selwins, Denny Carroll, Jessica Shelton, Doug Kulik, Javier Negron, Ulysses Sandoval, Glenn Harris, and I believe that's Bob Seminara. No, I'm sorry, that's John Godfrey, rather. The tail end of this train, and they're all going to come to pit road together here. The final 9 drivers to complete this cycle of green flag pit stops. Rodney Selwyn's very aggressive entry there, edging out Jeremy Jeffries. It's a matter of did he get it woed down in time. And we'll see who this is going to cycle the race lead around to. This is the group coming off of pit road that just made their pit stops. Joe DeSpirito leading this pack. We'll take a look and see where he cycles around in relation to Rodney Sullins and Jeremy Jeffries. Oh, DeSpirito back to pit road. One would have to assume the 24 hit with a speeding penalty, and that's huge for DeSpirito because Joe only came into this race 13 points to the good. Granted, he'll have a point for a lap led. He'll more than likely get the bonus point for most laps led tonight, so that would have given him 15 points above the cut line. But if DeSpirito ends up finishing down outside of the top 20, even the top 25, he could be in jeopardy of finishing this race below the cut line and not advancing into the next round.
Tough break. I saw when he came in, it looked like something had happened. So I guess he's just a little too fast.
Now he's going to have, now his fate basically rests in the hands of those that were below him in the standings. Now, one thing that we can say that could help Joe DeSpirito is Kelly Causey came into this race above the cut line. He's not in the field tonight, which means that he will fall out of the top 8. Joe DeSpirito will at least be ahead of him. So Joe possibly, if the points fall correctly, could maybe be in the 8th and final playoff spot. But again, a lot of it's determined on the final finishing results here, and I'm seeing a lot of drivers that were below the cut line coming into this race that are up here towards the front. Jessica Shelton, Tim Nofsker most notably, would love to take advantage of the misfortune of the 24 car. Keith Bynum is going to inherit the lead, and he'll be bringing us back to the stripe for 20 laps to go. Again, here's a look at what the playoff points looked like coming into this race. Jeremy Jeffries, Bob Seminara, Josh Metallic, Mark Paglia, they've been able to stay out of trouble. They're all up here in this lead group. Looking at this time, like they could advance their way into the next round. Causey, we know, is already locked in with a win. Donnie Garrett, he is right now in 18th place. I believe he's at the very tail end of this lead pack. Yes, he is. I see him right back there behind Robert Breedlove, so he still looks like he's in good shape. And Chuck McClure is up in this lead pack as well. So DeSpirito right now needs to worry about the 088 and the 9. Most notably, I think he has to worry about the 9 of Jessica Shelton, because Nofsker, yes, he's leading this race right now, but if he doesn't close the deal with the checkered flag, he's 10 points behind Shelton. So if Shelton can stay within 10 positions of Nofsker, then she would probably be the one to eliminate the 24 from the next round. However, Nofsker treating this, it looks like, as a must-win situation. 12 points below the cut line coming into this one. If he takes the checkered flag, that shifts the cutoff line and would put more drivers in danger that came in above the 8th in the standings. And look at some of the drivers that were able to execute on that pit stop. Brian Lovell is now up into the 3rd position in the 043. Great job by him and that Wolfpack machine right in front of Denny Carroll. We haven't mentioned Brian's name all night long, and in some ways that's a good thing because he's been able to keep his nose clean and stay out of trouble. And
Oh, look at this third line foreman back there very quickly.
Yeah, Brian may have had one of the best pit stops there on that cycle with all the positions he was able to gain.
Sometimes all it takes is a good time on pit road. Seth, you said that we're within 20 to go. These cars will have to make one more stop.
Nope, they're good.
Are you sure? Because
they came to pit road at lap 44, lap 45, so they should be able to make it the rest of the way. It's close, but they are in the fuel window. One car that I think is not going to make it is Jeffrey Elliott, because he pitted a little bit earlier than everybody else. He did have to come back down pit road for a pass-through. He is currently, I believe, the first car 1 lap down. But even with the pass-through, I think he's going to be a couple laps short of making it the rest of the way.
Just to be clear, this is the race for the top 8, right?
Correct.
Not 4, 8.
For the top 8, yep. We'll have the final 4 determined in the second elimination race. 2 races from now, next week, will be the start of the round of 8, setting us up for that elimination. And then, of course, the unique finale here for this series, where the championship is not decided in just one night. It's the conglomerate points gained in 2 races as to determining the champion of the remaining final 4. And we have seen, even with that type of format, championships come down literally to just 1 point. Well, Tim Nofsker has got a teammate right there behind him in Jeremy Jeffries. Wouldn't be surprised if Jeremy might, at this point in time, just be committed to pushing Tim, trying to advance him into the playoffs. Jeremy, at this point in time, coming into this race as the points leader in the playoffs. He obviously would still advance, even if he finished in 2nd place. But what about the guys behind? You've got Brian Lovell, you've got Denny Carroll, a couple of drivers that are teammates out of Big Stone Gap Racing.
Seth, a little birdie in my ears telling me that they're not as close as you think they are on fuel.
Did they not take on 2 cans?
They're saying they're going between a can to half a can.
Wow.
So your math is a little off there, buddy.
They all pitted around the 20 to go mark.
No, they pitted before the 20 to go mark.
Huh.
Some are trying to clutch, some aren't. But from what I was told, it's going anywhere between half a can to a can.
Well, with that information, then that would say nobody is going to be able to make it, because if I heard the information and you saying half a can to a splash, then there'd be a possibility. Boy, half a can to a can, I don't know if you can even save enough to be able to make it the rest of the way.
I don't think so.
All right, so
At least you don't want to be the leader.
No. I mean, Nofsker at this point in time, he's just hoping there's a caution. He's got the track position. He's hoping for there to be a yellow flag, because there is no way he is going to be able to make it if this is the case of what we're hearing with the numbers. He's creating the draft for everybody else. He's consuming more fuel in doing so. The battle for the lucky dog position right now is really between 5 drivers. Joe DeSpirito, Jeffrey Elliott currently hold those free pass spots, and they are both up in this lead pack. Randy Waugh,
Luigi,
Mike Mangialardi, Bob Dixon, they are also a lap down. Bobby Farrell is 2 laps down to the leaders. Bob Dixon about to be 2 laps down. You see him right there, just ahead of the leaders on the back straightaway. So the update on Joe DeSpirito, he is currently scored in the 26th position. As things currently stand, until they catch up to Ken Roberts and Tom Dixon, if they do, that is where Joe DeSpirito is currently slated to finish this race, outside of something that might happen if they end up having that final pit stop in the closing stages. I don't necessarily know if 26th is safe enough for him to still be considered a borderline advancee in the round of 8, considering he came into this one only 13 points to the good, theoretically 15 points to the good if you factor in his laps led here tonight. This next time by, it's going to be 11 laps to go. And you alluded to, Michael, that it's fluctuating between a can and a half can. A can of fuel will get you 10 laps. A half can of fuel will get you 5 laps. If you absolutely have to go with a can of fuel, you're probably going to see drivers diving onto pit road in the next couple of laps. If they are going to rely on just taking on a half can of fuel, they'll probably be coming to pit road somewhere around lap 61, 62, which is nearing the point of the race that we dubbed the point of no return. And Novsker has jumped down to the inside line there. I don't know if that's to block the advance of the move that Brian Lovell and Denny Carroll were trying to make for the lead, or if he's making absolutely certain that he's going to have a lane to the inside when he dives to pit road. Greg Lovell looks like he's coming to pit lane. I don't know if he indicated he was coming to pit road, got a bad bump there, almost spun out. But he's making the dive onto pit road. You saw Ken Roberts also in the 55 diving onto pit lane. That's a position Joe DeSpirito is going to pick up, by the way, and this will be another one with Tom Dixon in the 45 going a lap down. Every position is a point for the 24 car right now. So that says to me that right there, Greg Lovell is probably going to take on a can of fuel. Let's see if anybody else feels that they're going to have to take on a can of fuel. I mean, Novsker, I think, is going to have to take on a can. And if that's the case, I think he's going to be having to come to pit road within the next 2 laps. I don't see how he can make it any further. We're about to catch the 7 of Cy Jones, who I believe just made his last pit stop. He was already a lap down. This is going to put him a second lap down in the 7, so unfortunately it looks like Cy Jones is going to be eliminated. We're starting to be able to compile a list as of right now of drivers that will not be advancing, that will be eliminated. Brian Schilling, we already knew. Ken Roberts, Cy Jones look like they're going to be mathematically eliminated. Terry Bombard's back in the 20th position, so I'm pretty sure he's going to be eliminated at this point in time as well. So the big question marks are Novsker and Shelton. Can they get above the cut line? We've got multiple drivers that are off the lead lap, so that target lap, completion of lap 61 onto 62, next flag at that point would end the race. If you're Tim Novsker, if you can at least make it to that point, do you run until then, maybe catch the yellow and try and pull off what Grant Wesley did several seasons ago, where you're able to clutch the entirety of the caution period and be able to cross the line on fumes to be able to pick up the checkered flag? Are you going for that ultimate risk-reward strategy? Another driver back there dove for pit road. I believe that was Jeffrey Elliott. We knew for certain he wasn't going to be able to make it, as he was on pit road 2-3 laps before pretty much the rest of the field when they made their last green flag pit stop.
Getting close to crunch time here.
And we've already seen a couple of drivers get hit with speeding penalties. DeSpirito is suffering the effects of it here on this run, after leading a race-high 24 laps in the 24 car. So if you're any of these drivers up here, specifically playoff contenders, you cannot afford a penalty, because there will not be enough time to be able to bounce back. These final pit stops are going to be taking place with less than 10 to go. Heck, they might be taking place with less than 5 to go. Here comes Novsker in. Paglia, Donnie Garrett, Chuck McClure, Keith Bynum, all making the dive onto pit lane. 5 cars, add Tom Dixon as well in the 45. Smaller
Crunch
pack,
time,
but that's
Seth.
not necessarily a bad thing.
Crunch time, yep. We'll see if a caution comes out or not.
Brian Lovell now inherits the race lead. Has anybody back there been able to save enough to make it the rest of the way? Josh Metallic by himself on that top line, drifting to the rear of this pack. Let's see how long Brian Lovell decides to stay out. Denny Carroll right behind him. Metallic is in. Robert Breedlove is in from the rear of this pack. Remember, 2 weeks ago, we had a playoff contender go to victory lane in Kelly Causey. If any of the drivers up here, like a Brian Lovell, a Denny Carroll, Rodney Sullins in fourth, if they win, it comes down to points for the other 7 drivers that advance. More radios lighting up. We'll see who of this lead group is coming in. We are at the point of no return, by the way, as well. You see, lap 62 of 66. If a caution comes out, race is over. We race back to the stripe.
We have lap down cars, right? That's why
we do. Plenty of them.
Here we go.
Almost everybody from this group is on pit road. Brian Lovell, Bob Seminara, very aggressive. Ulysses Sandoval slides and saves it. Greg Palmer in the grass.
I don't know about that, Bob. I don't know.
That was risky for sure. Very aggressive entry. 3 drivers stayed out. Denny Carroll in the 41, Jeremy Jeffries in the 1, Rodney Sullins in the 38. Remember, for Denny and Rodney, they're just looking for the checkered flag. They're not having to worry about playoffs. But for Jeremy Jeffries, he still has a playoff spot hanging in the balance. Do these 3 feel they can make it, or are they coming to pit road this time? Jeremy's coming in. So is Rodney, so is Denny. Top 3 onto pit lane.
Oh, I was half expecting another spectacular fuel strategy finish, Seth. I think me and you know exactly what we're talking about.
Well, we still have a driver. Never mind. I was going to say that I thought could be thinking about risking it. He was quite a ways back behind these 3, but Javier Negron is coming in. Doug Hulick in the 23 is ahead of this group. And I'm checking to see, has he made his pit stop? I think he's made his final pit stop, and he might inherit the race lead here. Tim Nofsker trying to make a run on the top side with help from Mark Paglia and Chuck McClure. This could be the battle for the race lead, for the race win. Nofsker goes back to the point with help from Paglia. And Nofsker's got a lot of help up there. Paglia and Chuck McClure to be able to help play some defense for him. Here come the rest of the cars off of pit road. Rodney Sullins in the 38. Looks like he was the leader of those 3. Here comes the momentum with Tim Nofsker around the top. Slow car on the bottom. Ooh, Rodney on the apron. Nofsker back to the point. Paglia into second, McClure into third, Hulick and Brian Lovell will slide into 4th and 5th. Black flag displayed, speeding penalty for the 10 of Terry Bombard. That's his playoff hopes gone. He will be one of the eliminated drivers at the conclusion of this one. 2 laps to go for Tim Nofsker. Wounded car Bob Dixon moving up and out of the way. And now the scenario is set. You know the 28, the 17, they're not moving. They're going to try and help the 088. Who's going to try and make the move to wrestle this win away from Tim Nofsker? Joe DeSpirito falling back there in the 24. DeSpirito, after that cycle of pit stops, picked up 2 spots from 26th to 24th. That's 2 points. White flag in the air, 1 lap to go. Look around the 4th position. That's where the move's going to have to be made. Here comes Hulick. He's got help. Brian Lovell, Donnie Garrett, Ulysses Sandoval. Nofsker makes the move for the block. Paglia into the wall. Down the back straightaway. Where does Hulick go? If he makes the move, does Brian go with him? Brian goes up to the top. Garrett stays to the bottom. Nofsker saying, if you're going to pass me, you're going to have to do it the long way around the racetrack. You're going to have to go to the outside line.
Take the long way home.
Donnie Garrett now behind Doug Hewlick. Hewlick looks low. 4 wide back there. Garrett now moves Hewlick out of the way for second. But Tim Nofsker.
Oh, Ulysses is out of gas.
Oh, Hewlick is going to spin out across the line. But it's going to be Tim Nofsker who's going to pick up the victory. Nofsker, who came into this race below the cut line, is going to win his way in to the round of 8.
And Ulysses ran out of gas in the tri-oval.
And now we wait with bated breath to see who else is advancing in. Jeremy Jeffries, I believe, is safe. Seminara is safe. Paglia is safe. Where did Metallic finish? I'm trying to find him in the running order. 14th. I think that's good enough to advance. Donnie Garrett with the runner-up finish is going to be safe. McClure is going to be safe with his top 5. So now the jury is out with Nofsker advancing. Who takes advantage there? Is it going to be Despirito dropping out, Nofsker moving in? I believe that is going to be the case. I'm looking here, trying to do some quick calculations, and I believe that the 6 drivers that are going to be eliminated, and we will get the confirmation more than likely before this race is concluded, before our coverage is concluded, but I believe that the 6 drivers that are going to be eliminated are going to be Jessica Shelton, Terry Bombard, Joe Despirito, Brian Schilling, Cy Jones, and Ken Roberts. That's just based off of the rough math. We will get the official calculations before this conclusion, but the pressure was on for Tim Nofsker. He was below the cut line, 12 points below the cut line, and the way he raced tonight, he treated this as a must-win situation. He had a lot of teammates to be able to help him there, especially in the closing stages, to play defense, and Nofsker is going to be moving on to run for a championship in the round of 8. And I think he's going to attempt to do a burnout the entire tri-oval apron. Well, this race came down to the very end. Pit stops in the closing stages with less than 10 to go. Some drivers were able to execute perfectly. Other drivers with some hiccups that ultimately cost them. At the end of the night, Tim Nofsker picking up the victory. And he's burning it down here at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. We'll be talking with him as well as the other podium finishers. Donnie Garrett bringing it home in second. He will advance into the round of 8. And how about Brian Lovell? I believe this is going to mark his best finish in an RTG Talladega Challenge Series, as he will round out the podium in that 0:43. Nofsker now takes his celebration to the grass, and we will bring up those full finishing results for you. Chuck McClure bringing it home.
Questions.
10-4. Chuck McClure bringing it home in the 4th position. Great comeback for Keith Bynum as well in 5th. Bob Seminara in 6th. Rodney Sull in 7th. Doug Hewlick got spun across the finish line. He was able to bring it home in 8th, though. Danny Carroll just starting the pole in 9th. And Jeremy Jeffries going to complete the top 10. Jessica Shelton was 11th. But with Nofsker winning, I believe she's going to be the first one outside of that cut line looking in. Mark Paglia in 12th. Ulysses Sandoval, as Michael alluded to, running out of fuel across the starfish line for 13th. Metallic in 14th. And Robert Breedlove going to complete the top 15. Glenn Harris, Greg Palmer, Bernie Mobbs, Greg Lovell, John Godfrey were your top 20. And the last drivers to finish on the lead lap were Doug Woolley, Javier Negron, and Terry Bombard in 23rd. Joe Despirito, after leading 24 laps, finishes in 24th place in the number 24. There's a little numerology for you there. More than likely, though, is going to be eliminated from the playoffs. But again, we will wait for the official word. Tom Dixon also finishing off the lead lap in 25th with Ken Roberts and Cy Jones. We know that Roberts and Jones, they will not be advancing. Bobby Farrell, Mike Mangialardi, 2 laps down each. Bob Dixon, 3 laps down. 4 down for Jeffrey Elliott. He was the last driver to finish the race. We saw Randy Waugh on the inside of the back straightaway as the field thundered around him near the closing stages. He was out of fuel. He'll finish 32nd. Jeff Crivello, Richard Martin, and Billy Ellis are also out of the race, involved in the first 2 cautions of the evening. But we will now head into our FRN post-race wind down. We will hopefully have the word of who advances, who does not here in just a few moments as the points are calculated. It gives us some time to be able to talk with our podium finishers on the night. And let's kick things off with the driver that brings it home in the third position this evening. Let's see if we can dial up Brian Lovell.
User was moved to
Hey,
your
Brian,
channel.
it's Michael and Seth up here in the FRN booth. You got us?
Yeah, buddy, got you. How's it going?
I'll tell you what, you were in a dogfight there in the closing stages of this one, but let's talk about what set up that battle to the checkered flag. I apparently had a broken calculator. I thought after you guys made that pit stop around the 20 laps to go mark, I thought you guys were good to make it the rest of the way, and we were watching the shootout to the finish there. No, you guys still had one more pit stop, so how much pressure was there in executing that pit stop to make sure you were still going to be in the conversation with less than 10 to go?
Yeah, I was just trying to mind my P's and Q's there and got on and off pit road real good and uh uh tried to step there near the front. Doug Hewlick run out of gas there, was running out of gas, and I got in the back of him, and the he said he wished he would have given me a heads up on it, but what can you do?
In that type of a situation, especially with that final pit stop coming around the point of no return, we know if a caution comes out, more than likely the race is going to end. It kind of looked like a number of drivers absolutely had to pit at a certain point, but there were other drivers like yourself that stayed out an extra lap or two. Was that to kind of wait and see if the caution came out and you might be able to clutch the rest of the way, or did you think that maybe that extra lap advantage could put you a little bit further up once everything cycled around, probably coming around to 3 laps to go or so?
Yeah, that I wasn't betting on a caution or anything. I was just hoping that extra lap would cycle out like it did, and I would keep up enough momentum to pass the guys that pitted the next lap after I did. So it worked out pretty good.
Now you're up there in the thick of it with a number of playoff drivers around you, a lot of drivers trying to advance their way into the round of 8 with this being an elimination cutoff race. How difficult is it as a non-playoff driver to kind of balance the aggressiveness on when you make the move, who you make the move with when you've got that kind of a scenario around you as well?
Yeah, I just try to be careful, not wreck people, and just keep an eye on who's in the points where, and mind my P's and Q's, man. You're on the edge and you have to let off that throttle a lot, but you just have to look straight ahead and pay attention and don't get sidetracked, you know,
Way
because
past
we had some huge ups, in the race, and man, if I wasn't on my watching, they'd been huge wrecks.
Absolutely. Well, you had to pass a lot of cars tonight, rolled off the grid from the 27th position, but really executed those green flag pit stops to gain the track position there and was in the conversation in the closing stage as a solid finish of third place tonight. Congratulations on a great run overall. Before we let you go, though, Brian, floor is yours for thank you, sponsors, and shoutouts.
Yeah, to thank my Wolfpack teammates for what they're doing over at CCR and other places, and I'd like to thank my Stone Gap Racing teammates, my family, all. They're good to me, and we're good to each other. And I want to give you guys a shout out. You do a good job, and I'd like to thank RTG for all the hard work they do, all the admins, and I'll give it back to you guys.
That's Brian Lovell, brings it home with a solid podium finish here this evening in the second playoff race of the season here at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. Congratulations on the great run there, Brian. Hopefully this isn't the last time we're talking to you here this season.
I hope not. I appreciate you guys.
Brian Lovell bringing it home
User was
P3, his
moved
best
out of
finish
your
of the
channel.
season. Let's now see if we could talk to the second highest finishing of the playoff contenders. He is going to be advancing into the round of 8, and we have gotten the official point standings, so we will be able to notify you of who those Elite 8 are going to be. But we do know for certain this is going to be one of them. Let's see if we can dial up the driver, the number 77, Donnie Garrett.
User was moved
Hey,
to
Donnie,
your
it's Michael and
channel.
Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
I got you.
I'll tell you what, It was looking pretty hairy out there for a number of playoff drivers. We would see some of them at the front, but some of them kind of mid-pack, and the points were just so close coming into tonight, regardless if you were above or below the cut line. But you got it done tonight with second place finish. How difficult was the road to get up there to the front, first of all, because a lot of different things you drivers had to adjust for this evening. Those early yellow flags, but then the long green flag runs, and then ultimately that final pit stop with less than 10 to go.
Well, I mean, the night started off crazy. I qualified second, and then the server dropped or something, and I went from second to 28. So I went into that race so far down and so mad. And like I say, man, it just you get back there and it just gets so crazy. So I mean, I basically stayed on the bottom and just tried to, watch for those third lines to come, which pulled that middle line back, just like it always does, and just kind of just bid my time all night. Just kind of stayed out there and try to stay out of trouble. I went through a couple wrecks and got through pretty good. And yeah, like I said, there at the end, I was praying for a damn green flag pit stop because that's what separates us all. When we get these green flag pit stops, the cream rises, and you know who all come out there and we're all good, pretty good, green flag pitters. So we got to the front, and then we just kind of stayed there. And like I said, I knew I needed to be somewhere in the top 7 or 8 to be safe. So really wasn't going to push any issues, but man, they just kept opening up the lanes. And I just kept taking them. And I'm like, okay, okay. And I said, man, I get to come up here and talk to you guys. So I just did I just did what it gave me. I took what it gave me and moving on. And man, so excited. But like I say, started the night off pretty dejected, but that going from second to 28, that just really put me down.
Yeah, I'm with you on having the beef for the server reset because I was in line to get my third pole in the random qualifying draw as a commentator. But I mean, let's talk about you were talking about kind of analyzing the scenario of a top 7, top 8 was more than likely going to have you safely into the next round, but had to take advantage when the opportunity was there to be able to continue to advance your position. Two questions for you in that regard. Number one, how difficult was it to kind of balance whether you felt safe making those moves? Because we saw a couple of drivers here tonight that were up towards the front of the field make some mistakes and then find themselves back in a precarious position on whether they were going to advance into the next round or not. And then number two, this is the racetrack where everything's taking place here pretty much during the postseason. It's our first elimination race here tonight. It's where we're going to be determining the final four, and then eventually where we're determining the champion. How important with what you were able to accomplish here tonight does it help you in terms of momentum if you find yourself in not necessarily a must-win situation, but a must-perform situation in 2 weeks?
Well, I mean, it's early in the race. I slid through my pit twice on yellow flag pit stops. I kept getting in the back, at 25th, 27th, 30th, 25th, and it was just it's just such a hornet's nest back there, man. Some of these guys just cannot hold a line, and you're just waiting for the wreck to break out, and you're just like, I gotta go, but you got to keep telling yourself, no, you can't, because if you go up there and you go around them, they may slap and hit you and wreck you. So you got to weigh that. You got to weigh that. Hey, I'm trying to get a 7th place here, so you got to keep bringing yourself back down, because where you need to be, and going up there puts me at risk. So I wanted to stay on that bottom. But yeah, I love this track. I excelled pretty well here. I'm a bottom feeder, and this is a faster bottom line, especially when the third line starts to come. You want to be on that bottom line. Now, if you got the right guys up in the third lane, they can make some headway. But if that third lane comes, you really want to be on that bottom, because that's just going to pull away, and it does it every time. And so I'm fine. Yeah, I like this. I like that this track is the one. Be interested to see where I pop out in the points here. And like I say, we still got a long way to go, and short time to get there, as they say.
Long ways to go, but definitely a lot of momentum on your side. Had some really good finishes these last couple of weeks leading up to the playoffs and here in this first round as well. Easily going to be advancing into this next round of the Elite Eight. Congratulations on the job well done here this evening, keeping that nose clean. And we look forward to seeing what you're able to do in the next round of the playoffs here, Donnie. Before we let you go, though, floor is yours for thank you, sponsors, and shout outs.
Well, I just want to give a shout out to you guys, man. You guys just do such a great job. I cannot wait to come back and watch this one, and because I was in a lot of mess back there. All the owners and admin over here at RTG, I tell you, Josh is the one we need to talk about, man. He just the stuff he puts up with, and he's got, we're all his kids basically, because he has to be dad sometimes. And but gotta give me a big hats off to him, and just the everyone around us, the competitors. Just a great night. like I say, started out a little dejected, and like I said, I'm a little bit better now. But looking forward to next week, and can't wait to get out here and run with these guys.
Absolutely. That's Donnie Garrett, second place here tonight. We know he's going to be one of the 8 drivers moving on to compete for this championship here in season 63. Congrats on the great run here this evening. Best of luck on the continuation of the playoffs starting next week.
Woo!
And let's see if we can go down to
User was
victory
moved
lane
out of
and
your
dial up
channel.
tonight's race winner. Not necessarily in a must-win situation, but man, he drove like it was one. Let's see if we dial up Tim Nofsker.
User was moved
Hey, Tim,
to
it's
your
Michael and Seth
channel.
up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
I do.
All right, so I just led up with us bringing you here into the booth that you weren't necessarily, as far as the calculations, in a must-win situation here tonight, but the way we saw you racing here this evening, working with the teammates, trying to maintain that track position, keep everybody else in the rearview mirror, especially in the closing stages here, almost seemed like you really treated this as if this was a must-win situation scenario.
That is exactly. I told the guys before I came in. I said I've got to win tonight. There's no way that many people are going to have troubles to advance me. I've got to just win or nothing.
So, with that said, I always like to go inside the mind of a driver. Do you find it easier or more difficult treating a race as a must-win situation? Because I kind of feel that if you're in the must-win mentality, you've got tunnel vision. You've only got one thing you really have to worry about. Whereas if you're points racing, you've got 2 or 3 other things you have to worry about outside of that. So is that accurate assessment that it's easier to kind of be in the must-win mentality, or do you find it more difficult?
I would say. I mean, I like to think of myself as a more cerebral racer, where I'm always thinking about which lines and this and that, and I try not to be overly aggressive, but I amped up my aggression tonight. I was going to stay up front no matter what. I think I got shuffled back once in a 3 wide situation, but yeah, I just had one thought in mind, that I need to be up front, and I really sailed it in on the green flag pit stop and gained probably 10, 12 spots on the high side there, which isn't optimal, but I had to do it because I was so far back. And I came out, I think I went from like 22nd to 4th in that exchange, and that really helped. And then I was in a decent spot from there.
So gained those spots on that pit stop, but then ultimately end up being the leader on that final run coming to the final green flag pit stop. So obviously with consuming more fuel, you had to be one of the drivers sooner to pit road than others. Did that worry you at all, or were you comfortable with that situation?
Well, I knew as long as I could keep my fuel range within a half can, it was kind of like 4 to 4.5, 5 laps. It was staying in that range, and I knew that I could still get a half can and not lose anything on pit road. If it was a fill situation, then I would have probably been at a deficit. But the fact that everybody was taking the same amount of fuel, it wasn't going to cost me any more time.
You've been hitting some clutch moments here in season 63 as well, because I remember that the start of the season didn't go all that well for you, and then we got around the midway portion of the regular season, you really started hitting consistency, ultimately pointed your way into the playoffs. You come into this one below the cut line, you're able to go to victory lane. So with that being said, when we end up getting down to crunch time of advancing into the final 4, obviously, in the next 2 weeks, and then ultimately trying to win the championship, I mean, these are high pressure situations. With how you've been able to come through on the right side in the high pressure situation so far this season, how does that build your confidence leading up towards the close of this season?
Well, I don't know who coined the phrase, but one that always sticks with me is pressure is a privilege. And to be in I'm just thrilled to death with the number of fantastic racers that we have in this series. I'm just feel fortunate to even be in that situation. So I love pressure, but you have to perform when the pressure's on. So I like being in those situations. When you race this sim for as long as we have, or I have, it's you still get your heart rate up in certain situations, and I thrive on that. I love it. So I would like to hope that next round goes a little smoother, but you know, you never know.
And I'd also like to point out that this venue tonight is where everything is ultimately getting decided here down the home stretch. It's where the Final Four is determined in 2 weeks' time. And then, of course, where the championship is decided in the second of the two races in that final round as well. So, got to be pretty good there to be going into this racetrack in 2 weeks in the potential Final Four situation as the defending winner at this racetrack. Tim, congratulations on the job well done here tonight. We talked about it. Execution on pit road usually always seems to be the key late in these races. You were able to dial that up perfectly here tonight, bringing it home with the victory, advancing into the round of 8. We saw the elation with that celebration there on the apron of the Tri-Oval, and we'll let you get back to that celebrating here. But first, floor is yours for Victory Lane. Thank you, sponsors, and shoutouts.
Well, first of all, I'm going to thank a list of drivers because at some point in the race, they impacted how I was able to maintain my position. Josh Metallic, Rodney Sullins, Doug Hewitt, my buddies, Mark Paglia, Chuck McClure, those two guys, they always, are willing to push. And I couldn't have won with all those guys. Jeremy Jeffries pushed me out to the lead when I came out with the 4. And that was a huge moment where I was able to kind of control the race a little bit. So, I mean, there's guys out there that without every bit of their help, I would have never got the win. So I got to thank every one of those guys. And then I want to thank you guys for doing the broadcast. It's always a pleasure to go back and watch them. And I've got to double thank Josh because without him and his guidance, he's the lead admin on Thursday. There's no doubt that this racing wouldn't be as good without Josh running the show. And I'm going to give a shout out to Wiley. I miss him every day. Wish he was still here with us. And then I'll give a shout out to Rolling Thunder Gaming bosses, Sean Prime, Dave Cannon, Jason Scheck is instrumental. There's so many pieces to this puzzle. So I'm ecstatic and I'm rambling a bit, but I appreciate every one of them, and let's see if we can win a championship.
Hey, you win a race, you deserve to ramble. It's one of the privileges of being down there in Victory Lane. But Tim, congratulations on the win here tonight. Best of luck here on the continuation of the playoffs beginning next week at Talladega in the round of 8.
All right, thank you guys.
Tim Nofsker, your winner here this evening.
User
Playoff
was
drivers
moved out
go
of your
2 for
channel.
2 in the first playoff races, and so ultimately Tim Nofsker, Kelly Causey, goes without saying, they are going to be 2 of the 8 drivers moving on to the next round of the playoffs. We do have the point standings calculated here, and so the other 6 drivers that have pointed their way into the playoffs, this is the order that they would be in based on where they were in the point standings at the conclusion of this race. Bob Seminara, Jeremy Jeffries, Mark Paglia, Josh Metallic, Donnie Garrett, and Chuck McClure will finish 5 points ahead of Joe DeSpirito to garner the final playoff position. So narrowly, the defending champion will have a chance to defend his title. That means that the 6 drivers that will be eliminated from the playoffs here after the first 2 playoff races include the aforementioned Joe DeSpirito, Jessica Shelton, Terry Bombard, Cy Jones, Ken Roberts, and Brian Schilling. Maybe more importantly, Michael, as those 6 drivers lose their playoff status, they now become 6 new X factors for the remaining 8 playoff drivers. That's a lot more points that are left on the table here heading into this second round of the playoffs, the next 2 races.
Absolutely. So it's going to be fun to watch, and I can't wait to see how this unfolds.
So far we've had 2 playoff drivers go to victory lane, and that was when we had 14 playoff contenders. With it being whittled down to 8, what do you think the odds are that in this next round we end up seeing a non-playoff driver go to victory lane? Or as we heard Donnie Garrett say, the cream kind of rising to the top with these playoff contenders, do we see, even with the odds against them, potentially a sweep in the second round with playoff drivers?
Well, it's hard to tell, Seth. I mean, you got eight playoff drivers and like 30 other drivers, so the odds will forever be in your favor.
Be interesting to see as well how Talladega next week sets us up for the upcoming second elimination race, which will determine our final four when we come back here to Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. We saw Tim Nofsker here tonight. He said he felt it was a must-win situation. He delivered. Will we see another driver find themselves in that kind of a scenario when we come back here? We'll have to find out. Next Thursday, Talladega Superspeedway sets the table, sets the scenario. Maybe already will advance a driver into that final four. We'll have to wait and find out. Hope you guys will join us at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time when the green flag will fly for playoff race number 3. Once again, we're not done here this week. This Saturday night, November the 9th, at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're going to be bringing you coverage of the Talladega Nights Mega Team Race. Final time, it'll be under the Talladega Nights moniker before transitioning over to Full Throttle Racing. Hope you guys will join us for that. 4 heat races, the main event at Talladega Nights Super Speedway. Always a lot of fun. We try and figure out who the advantage is, who the potential champion is. We had it wrong the last time. Ultimately, it ended up being the Goodwrench Chevrolets that'll be coming in as the defending champions of the last Mega Team event, so we'll see if they can defend their crown. Other drivers, other teams going to be trying to step up to the plate to try and topple them. But Michael, another wild one here tonight. We've seen some pretty unpredictable first couple of playoff races, some early cautions, but then it settles into long green flag run, ultimately comes down to pit road execution. We'll have to see if that happens here in the upcoming next round of the playoffs, but 2 really good races to kick off this postseason. I appreciate you joining me in the booth here tonight for this one.
Absolutely. Always fun. Can't wait for the next one.
Thanks to everybody that tuned into our coverage here today. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Until either this upcoming Saturday night for Talladega Nights or next week for Rolling Thunder Game, we appreciate you tuning into our coverage here. We hope that you guys will be joining us next time. For Michael Norman, I'm Seth Cole. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday evening as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of FRN, the Flatout Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank